Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I've been running the new trial Examined Reliquary and I finally got enough completions to be able to just purchase the new weapons. The Weaver Weapons. We can see them in the Menzer brands in store here. Unfortunately they'll cost us 300,000 astral diamonds, but then you need 30 of these Examined eyes. And there's a weekly cap of 30, which I have just hit as I've had over 15 completions this week. So here on the preview server, I want to check the set out on my wizard. So we're just going to buy the Weaver's Orb here, along with then the talisman on the other character, and move them over. So here we go. We have our Weaver weapons. Now I want to check the math and give an analysis on whether they're going to be the best weapon set in the game. They sure look it when you look on paper and read through their tooltips and everything. They have somewhat vibes of the Masterwork weapons, where you would provide bonuses to not just yourself, but also your allies. However, unfortunately, these will only give you a bonus depending on your roll. So Masterworks will still be superior, them giving 2% outgoing damage, healing, and a damage reduction all together, not just the damage bonus. These Weaver weapons, you can see the middle part there, you and your nearby allies are granted the following depending on your roll: either 1% damage, or 2% damage reduction, or 2% total healing. However, they have a bunch of other bonuses, and primarily for a damage dealer, they're good. You gain up to 5% additional damage based on the hit point difference between you and your target. So if your target's at 50% hit points and you're full, then you would gain 2.5% extra damage. When your target's at nearly 0% hit points and you're on full hit points, you'll gain the 5% damage bonus. And otherwise, you also gain a 5% damage bonus when you're in Underdark, which right now is most of the endgame content, your Advanced Dungeon Temple of the Spider, and your Trial Examined Reliquary. We'll see next mod what content we get. And so firstly, to actually make sure the weapons work, we went and initially tested them in the training room, and then we went over here into the trial where it's considered Underdark to again test their damage bonuses. Again, first, the secondary effect where you'd gain 1% damage bonus per stack as you see via the tooltip, and then you'd also gain 5% in Underdark. And we can confirm via my test data that yes, it works. We got our base damage there, comparing it, getting the exact same stats and item level, figuring out our damage with that, and then switching to the weapons, gaining the 1% damage buff, you can see did increase our damage to what we would see when we attack our target. And then going to Underdark, testing that again, we can see that like in Underdark against the Minotaur, we were gaining a 6% damage buff then. 1% from the weapon bonus, plus another 5% for being in Underdark. So, good to know it actually works. Now they will stack with the Masterwork weapons, so you can have this bonus along with the Masterwork weapons. And if you're a tank or a healer, I would recommend still sticking to the Masterwork weapons rather than switching to the Weaver weapons. You might see healers and tanks running them just because of the item level boost and the, I got the weapons, you don't, the flex that you've managed to obtain them. But the Masterwork ones will still be superior, providing a damage boost of 2% to your allies and a damage reduction to your allies. A lot better than just giving like damage dealers 1% additional damage from the Weaver weapons without then a damage resistance boost. But it will help you. It'll help you as a tank or a healer with regards to the base damage increase and the item level increase. As a healer especially, that base damage will contribute to more heals, and so it can definitely be viable. But let's move on to DPS. Should you be using these weapons? We want to compare them versus Masterwork weapons, just running a full party of those, and also comparing them to Stormforged. Stormforged is a little bit more unreliable, and it also has a bug. Right now somebody's tested it, I haven't personally. The last part, when you deal combat advantage against an enemy, you have a chance to trigger the bonus that gives you 5% total damage. In fact, it gives you 10% total damage. So yeah, it can give a little bit more of a damage boost than what you might have thought. But that aside, you still have the timing requirement. You want to ideally align all of those damage buffs, so dodging and dealing combat advantage damage, you want to align them with the artifact call so you would obtain most of your damage. An artifact call will give you at least like 50% of your overall damage in a fight. Again, that's endgame content. If you're not running endgame content and you're not in a coordinated group, then you want just Stormforged will do fine. You can align it with your own artifact call. You can align it with your own mount and daily power. But artifact calls are a massive boost, and it's what sets apart just a pug group to a coordinated group. And the difference between them is just insanely huge. So just as a quick pointer, I would go with the Weaver Weapons when you have them. Why? Because the bonus is a lot more reliable and you still gain the damage boost, which is even higher than the Stormforged, again at 250 versus Stormforged at 200. That base damage increase will help you in scaled content, and otherwise if you're running Underdark, you even gain an additional 5% damage boost. So let's have a look at the quick math and the data to back up my reasons to run these weapons. So first of all, we compare the 5 times Masterwork versus Weaver Weapons and 2 times Masterwork. Again, if you're in a party with a tank and a healer and 3 DPS, ideally the tank and the healer are still running Masterwork, and thus you gain the damage boost. So with 5 times Masterwork, you gain a 10% damage boost here just through the set, plus about 2% maximum through the at-will modification. It will vary class to class. Like a cleric, you're going to have no damage from their at-wills, and a barbarian might have 30%. And then the Weaver Weapons, you can see that here. You get the 2.5% average, you get the 3% bonus with the 3 DPS running these weapons, and then 4 from the supports with the Masterwork, 5% in Underdark, and you end up with that's the difference. Then you will have the modification from going from Masterwork, where they have the modification of extra ratings of 2.5%. But again, we're getting a bit stuffed full of ratings, you might not even be able to fit them anymore, so that might become irrelevant for you. And then the item level difference, pretty significant at over 2000 with that 250 base damage, so you end up with nearly a 3% difference between the weapons. Yeah, for most people, that's not much, and thus I wouldn't worry too much. You're not missing out on that big a difference, just running Masterwork. On top of that, Masterwork will give you the damage resistance boost, and you might need that in particular content like Xemnid. Especially if you're newer in there, you'll take a bit more damage than perhaps you should, and thus you'll need the survivability gains. But if we switch over versus Stormforged, you can see it becomes very similar. But again, Stormforged bonus, not as reliable. We do take, when we compare the damage difference here, the consideration of it being, let's say, average. So that would say like half your damage. So that would say that half your damage would come from with the bonus and then half without the bonus. It might be shifted differently than that. If you get the bonus during the artifact call, you might have more damage with the bonus than without the bonus. It can depend on your skill and how well you can align the bonus. But overall, the difference is still in favor of Stormforged via the damage bonus, and the only then difference is the base damage increase of 50, which results in 0.33% in favor of Weaver. But I would say Weaver better than Stormforged by a good bit more than this, because of the reliability through Weaver giving you the damage bonus all the time. You'll have it, and you'll know you'll have it during the artifact call, rather than Stormforged, not as easily reliable that you will have it during the article, especially when you have to delay artifact calls for certain times, and you'll end up getting that proc from dealing the combat advantage damage or just from shifting out of a mechanic, and then not being able to rely on having those extra damage boosts actually during the artifact call. So it's the Weaver Weapons for sure are going to be the best weapons for dealing damage. You go into scaled content and this base damage will have a higher increase again. Keep in mind this is within Underdark content, comparing both Stormforged versus Weaver. They're both gaining the bonus damage in Underdark, and then versus Masterwork without the bonus 5% from an Underdark, these become very close together. And so, yeah, without being an Underdark and not being scaled, Masterwork weapons versus Weaver, not much difference. We may as well have a quick look at the appearance item for a wizard. It does indeed work with our weapon illusion, which is nice, versus the Stormforged, and you can see it right there. We'll remove our illusion, and there you go. I don't think it's too impressive here on the wizard at all compared to other options that can just be a lot cooler, but you'll end up with fancy mythic weapons. The only other mythic weapons we've had in the past are from Crown of Caldegon, and they were very underwhelming. I personally like the look of the weapons on my paladin here. Pretty neat, and unfortunately, after 23 completions, I have not had a single paladin weapon dropping. So many barbarian and ranger ones though. Oh my god. Massive thank you again to all these channel members for their continued support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.